Welcome everybody! This is a fast counter-attack. Boca takes the lead. Lost it.
In English football this week, the big news surrounded Premier League sides Chelsea and Brighton. While Chelsea weren't having a terrible season start, it wasn't good enough for their new owners.
Meantime, we have some very big and dramatic news from the world of football, which is that Chelsea Football Club have just sacked their manager, Thomas Tuchel.
Chelsea's 1-0 Champions League loss against Croatian side Dinamo Zagreb sealed it. Thomas Tuchel had managed Chelsea for a year and a half. In his debut season with Chelsea, they won the Champions League. Tuchel had been under immense pressure. The former Chelsea owner, Roman Abramovich, had been forced to sell the club. The club itself had for a period of time a range of financial restrictions imposed upon it. Morale was shaky. Tuchel can be abrasive, confrontational and emotional, as he's shown on the touchline. Perhaps there was more to this sacking than we know. Perhaps the Dinamo Zagreb result was just the final straw. But what happened next was even more astonishing. Chelsea's owners went straight to the coach that they wanted, Brighton and Hove Albion's manager, Graham Potter. Chelsea wasted no time in getting the Brighton man to London for talks. Brighton had been doing well, very well, this season. Right now, as of the time that I'm making this, Brighton are 4th in the Premier League ladder. In 6 games, they've won 4, drawn none, and lost 1. They're ahead of Chelsea, of Manchester United, of Liverpool, and a host of other big clubs. Graham Potter came to Brighton on the 20th of May 2019. That was his debut season in the Premier League, and Brighton's best season since they first entered the league. Each season subsequently, Potter brought Brighton more points. Last season, for instance, Brighton had their highest ever top-flight result with a 4-0 victory over Manchester United, and they achieved their highest ever top-flight finish, coming 9th in the Premier League with 51 points. Brighton's recruitment policies under Potter have been especially interesting, and indeed unique for a Premier League club. Forbes magazine, in an article last year, talked about how Brighton's head of player recruitment and analysis, Paul Winstanley, has prioritised finding young, exciting, high-potential talents in leagues across the world. Brighton signed Ecuadorian midfielder Moises Caicedo in February of last year. At the time, Caicedo was 19 years old, a product of the youth academy of Independiente del Valle. Independiente del Valle are the current Ecuadorian domestic league champions. In 2020, Caicedo played in the Copa Libertadores and was instrumental in Independiente del Valle's excellent group stage performances, which saw them through to the round of 16. His performances in that tournament were key in bringing him to Brighton's attention. In fact, Brighton's links to the Independiente del Valle Academy are fundamental, and for any European club, especially English clubs, it is a good idea for recruitment staff to link with the staff in South American football academies. Direct and formal affiliate connections are not really even necessary. It can be enough for an English club to participate in a youth academy player exchange, or to have 1 or 2 of their recruiting staff go to a South American club's academy just to see how they operate. Because, and a deeper dive on this is a topic for another time and another episode, South American football academies are some of the greatest in the world. Smaller South American sides are constantly under pressure. Financial pressure, resource pressure, time pressure, recruitment pressure. They are in a perennial battle to provide good football, to stay competitive, and to deploy good players. Yet they do not have the cash to buy huge stars in the transfer market. What they often do instead is focus on building and maintaining excellent youth academies. Even bigger South American sides like Santos FC of Brazil have extraordinary youth academies. A huge number of past and current South American football stars, Pelé and Neymar among them, have emerged from that particular academy. South American clubs even look to their academy staff to find future scouts, coaches and managers. Brighton should certainly continue to look for links to South American academies. But Brighton's recruitment has been daring. They are, unlike many other Premier League sides, willing to take risks. Using the methods that we've talked about here at Golimetry, they've been able to make transfers work, to buy young, hot prospect footballers, and to deploy them with good effect. They understand immersive scouting, of using cultural, historical, and narrative perspectives, to see players in the Copa Libertadores and other South American tournaments, players like Caicedo, and to integrate them into Brighton's teams. This is not easy, but Brighton have made it work. And this is a big part of why players who start at Brighton, wherever they come from, are being poached more and more frequently by other big Premier League sides.
Let's get to the latest on Marc Cucurella. Chelsea have reached an agreement in principle to sign him from Brighton for £52.5 million.
But as of the time that this is being recorded, Brighton are looking for a manager. And even beyond Brighton, there are English clubs who need managers, who might be looking to shortlist some worthwhile targets for the immediate or distant future. Clubs who would do well to look to South America and to the Copa Libertadores. Because the Copa Libertadores, as the exemplar and pinnacle of South American club football tournaments, is worth watching not just for the players, but for the managers too. And there are many great managers in South America right now. Whether they can be enticed to come to English football is a different matter. There is, of course, an ethical question too. Would an English side, recruiting a South American coach from a smaller club on that continent, be doing the same thing that Chelsea did to Brighton? The answer would be in the details of the deal and how such a recruitment is actually managed. So who then are some South American managers worth looking at? Firstly, Marcelo Gallardo, currently managing River Plate, one of the big clubs in South America and in the world. 3 years ago I made a video about Gallardo which goes into more detail about his style, his tactics, and his attributes as a coach. Here though, I'll point out that Gallardo is a true original and a coach at the cutting edge. He's proven himself capable of building competitive squads even in difficult economic circumstances. Because just like there's a financial gap between the top English sides like Chelsea and mid-tier clubs like Brighton, the same sort of disparities also exist among South American clubs. Gallardo is continually at the technological forefront of football management. He employs neuroscientists, for instance, to help develop players' spatial awareness. Gallardo at River Plate has faced similar demands that clubs like Brighton have encountered and probably will continue to encounter. Often when Gallardo and his team have found, developed, and improved youngsters with great talent, they've been scooped up by European sides. A perfect example is the young forward Julian Alvarez, who stood out at River Plate, but then went to Manchester City, where he now plays first-team football. Still, Marcelo Gallardo is a top-tier manager. He's won the Copa Libertadores twice, and this is an incredibly difficult task. He's won the Argentine Domestic Cup 3 times in a row. Last year, he led River to win the domestic league. Gallardo has won the personal accolade of Best South American Coach of the Year 3 times consecutively from 2018 to 2020. In 2019, the International Federation of Football History and Statistics ranked Gallardo as the 5th best club coach in the world, and while he was behind managers like Klopp and Guardiola, he was ahead of other renowned figures like Diego Simeone, Allegri, and indeed Thomas Tuchel, who was then at PSG. Gallardo is the most accomplished coach in the history of River Plate by the number of successes he's achieved with the club. In a continent and a nation where interim coaches seem the norm, and where normal managerial stints do not typically last long, Gallardo has been a survivor and an overachiever. But the era of Gallardo may be coming to an end. Last year, Gallardo signed a 1-year contract extension amid speculation that he is looking for a new challenge soon. If that's the case, he'd be an excellent manager for any English club, and he'd be a perfect fit for Brighton. He would bring fierce competitiveness, originality, and experience to the club. Gallardo's record in the Copa Libertadores, a demanding and high-pressure contest, would be translatable to European football. Gallardo is the sort of coach who could help bring Brighton to win a place in UEFA competitions, and he's the sort of manager who could steer them to success in knockout football. Gallardo would also bring with him a series of hugely valuable assets. That is, his connections with a host of other South American teams, his connections to academies across that continent, and his knowledge of young, high-potential footballers throughout South America. Which other managers from South America with Copa Libertadores or other CONMEBOL tournament experience could do well at Brighton or any other comparable English side? Another worth mentioning is Abel Ferreira. He is the current manager of Palmeiras, a big Brazilian club who have just been knocked out of the Copa Libertadores this year, but were the defending champions for 2 years running. I've also done a video on Ferreira, so check that out for a more detailed insight. But he is essentially a very demanding, talented and proficient manager. He uses youth and indeed emphasizes the recruitment of excellent, formidable young footballers. He is a tactician, he's passionate and he is determined. Ferreira is actually Portuguese. Like Gallardo, he's a fairly young manager and hasn't managed a huge number of sides. Those he has managed, though, have been successful. Last year, he beat out Marcelo Gallardo to earn the title of South American Coach of the Year. He was declared in 2020 the best coach in Brazil. In 2020, CONMEBOL labelled him as the Copa Libertadores Best Coach of the Year, and he won that title again in 2021. He's won the Copa Libertadores twice as well, and he's won the Brazilian Domestic Cup, the São Paulo State League, and the Copa Sudamericana, which is the South American equivalent of the UEFA Super Cup. He's also been the Club World Cup runner-up. Certainly, Ferreira is a coach worth looking at for an English team interested in a manager, especially considering his European coaching roots. He may be interested in a move back towards that area. So who else? There are several Argentine managers with Copa Libertadores experience and indeed national team experience. Like Gallardo or Mauricio Pochettino, these managers share similar styles and influences. The first worth mentioning is Jorge Sampaoli. He started out managing Peruvian sides and eventually he came to Ecuadorians CS Emelec, guiding them to Copa Libertadores qualification. Next, he coached Universidad de Chile and won a sequence of consecutive domestic titles from 2011 to 2012. Most importantly, he brought them the 2011 Copa Sudamericana, which is the South American equivalent of the Europa League. While the Copa Sudamericana sits a tier below the Copa Libertadores, it is uniquely strenuous and a difficult tournament, wonderful but challenging in its own right. Sampaoli has since coached the Chilean and Argentine national sides as well as Brazilian clubs Santos and Atlético Mineiro. He did well as the Chilean coach, and by winning the 2015 Copa America was listed as that year's FIFA World Coach of the Year. The award was handed jointly to Sampaoli, Pep Guardiola, and Luis Enrique that year. He did not see as much success as Argentina's national coach, but wherever he goes, he employs an energetic, high-paced, attacking style of football. This is inspired by Sampaoli's mentor, fellow countryman Marcelo Bielsa. He's never managed an English side, yet he is a manager on the rise, and perhaps now is the time for his move to English football. Sampaoli is just one of a huge number of Argentine managers who've been influenced by Bielsa. Others include Pochettino, Gallardo, and Simeone, just 3 names on what would be a very long list. Another name that would be on such a list is Gerardo Martino. The 59-year-old's managerial career began at Paraguayan clubs like Libertad and Cerro Porteño. He really began to shine when he moved to Newell's Old Boys in Argentina. When he arrived, Newell's were in serious danger of relegation. Martino won immense plaudits there by turning the team's fortunes around. In his first season at Newell's Old Boys, he secured top-flight status for the club. In his second season, he helped them win the domestic league, and indeed he helped them through to the semi-finals of the 2013 Copa Libertadores. Such a transformation in just 2 seasons was an astounding managerial feat. Martino's stock as coach rose significantly. Since that time, he has managed Barcelona, the Argentina national team, Atlanta United in the MLS, and right now he's at the head of the Mexican national team. While he was arguably the most successful at Newell's Old Boys, Martino showed there what he can do for teams under distinct pressure. Newell's was not, and still is not, a team with the economic clout or power of, say, Boca Juniors or River Plate. They're much more similar to Brighton than they are to Manchester City. And Martino is one of the foremost Argentine managerial minds of the modern era. He relies heavily on his youth squads and on youth players, and he has a record for developing youngsters into top-level footballers. Martino could be another worthwhile target for an English side in need of a manager. Then there are wildcards. Managers upon whom a club might take a gamble, who might be a bit of a risk, but who might pay off as well. Interesting managers who might have gone under the radar of most. For example, Rafael Dudamel. Dudamel, 49, is Venezuelan and a celebrated former goalkeeper for the Venezuelan national team. After retiring as a player, he began as a coach, doing well as he gained more experience. He coached the Venezuelan national youth sides and helped their under-20s achieve silver medals in the 2017 FIFA Under-20 World Cup, one of the nation's best ever results at an international football tournament. As the manager of the senior national side, Venezuela under Dudamel reached the quarterfinals of the Copa America twice in a row. Tactically, Dudamel has focused on building sides with strong defenses, who retain possession and use build-up play to patiently find scoring opportunities. As the national team coach, Dudamel used a 3-5-2 system with a potent midfield core and fast wingbacks, allowing rapid transition from absorbing in defense to attack through the midfield and forwards or attack via the wingbacks. Dudamel has also managed Brazilian club Atlético Mineiro, Chilean club Universidad de Chile, and Colombian side Deportivo Cali. At Universidad de Chile, Dudamel helped the team finish near the top of the table, allowing them qualification to the Copa Libertadores. Last year, he won the Colombian domestic league with Deportivo Cali. Right now, Dudamel is a free agent. He's a manager who can do a lot with a little, and while he has never managed a club outside South America, he could bring a fascinating and unique approach to the English game. There are other wildcards too. Some of these might be found within Ecuadorian football. Ecuadorian football is a great place to look for any English team in need of a manager. For instance, with Brighton's Ecuadorian connections, exemplified by their recruitment and development of players like Caicedo, Estupiñán, and Sarmiento, they might look at Independiente del Valle and some of the recent managers there. Independiente del Valle are one of the best sides in Ecuador and are routine participants in both the Copa Libertadores and its second-tier contest, the Copa Sudamericana. In 2019, a young Spanish manager, Miguel Ángel Ramírez, who had previously been in charge of youth sides in Spain, Greece, and then Ecuador, was appointed as first-team coach. Ramírez has not played professional football, but studied physical education and was passionate about training. He used new coaching methods developed in international academies where he had worked. He surrounded himself with staff he trusted, and they worked together with the players to focus on one goal: winning the first international title for Independiente del Valle. And so, by the end of 2019, Independiente del Valle won that year's Copa Sudamericana.
Independiente del Valle es el campeón de la conmebolsudamericana.
This was the first time Independiente had won the tournament, or in fact, any international cup. Winning the Copa Sudamericana can be as hard as winning the Copa Libertadores. Often, in the Sudamericana, teams travel even further than in any other world tournament. This adds up to tens of thousands of miles in a single campaign, equivalent to traveling around the world. Keeping up training, fitness, and morale are huge challenges. Ramírez, now 37, last managed a United States team, Charlotte FC. Despite getting fairly good results for the club, there were reports of fractures between Ramírez and his players. In any case, Ramírez would be a gamble, but one who could pay off huge dividends, just as he paid off for Independiente del Valle in 2019. There are also a number of other staff associated with Ramírez who coached Ecuadorian sides in the same time period or have managed them subsequently. Ismael Rescalvo, another Spaniard, for example, is the current manager of another top Ecuadorian club, CS Emelec, and he has worked with Ramírez and has Copa Libertadores experience himself. So, for any English club that's looking for a manager with new ideas, with experience in high-level, high-intensity football tournaments, and a manager with valuable connections and recruitment knowledge, South America is the place to look. And to begin with, specifically, managers who have experience with the Copa Libertadores, the Copa Sudamericana, or both. Because these two contests are excellent highlights and exemplars of South American football. Recruitment need not be exclusive to them, but they're very useful places to begin. This channel, Golimetry, was formed as a chronicle of the Copa Libertadores, and that's our goal today, to help provide a window into the tournament and conmebol competitions more broadly, to help explain what makes the Copa Libertadores unique and wonderful, to highlight the paramount position that the Libertadores occupies in terms of South American club football, to record and to convey the stories, the teams, the legends and icons, the wonder kids, the managers, and in broad terms, everything about the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana, the top club football contests in South America.